Be brutally honest with yourself. That's where real transformation begins. Not in a book, not in a motivational quote, not in someone else's voice telling you who you should be, but in that quiet, raw conversation you have with yourself when no one else is watching. You see, honesty is not just about telling the truth to the world. It's about having the courage to face your own truths, the ones you've hidden, avoided, or sugar-coated just to keep moving. But growth doesn't live in comfort. Growth lives in truth. The truth is, we all have things we'd rather not admit. We all have weaknesses we mask, habits we justify, patterns we blame on others. But when you strip away the excuses, what you're left with is the foundation for change. That's what being honest does. It breaks you open, so you can rebuild stronger, smarter, and more self-aware. And trust me, that process isn't glamorous. It's uncomfortable, it's messy, but it's necessary. Because you can't heal what you don't admit is broken. For a long time, even in my own journey, I wore masks, not literal ones, but emotional masks. I acted like I had it all figured out, smiled when I was hurting, powered through even when I knew I needed to pause. Why? Because I was scared. Scared that if I let the world see the cracks, they'd question my strength. But the day I chose to get real with myself was the day I took back my power. Not because I had all the answers, but because I stopped pretending I did. Being honest with yourself means asking the hard questions. Am I really putting in the work, or am I just hoping for results? Am I choosing comfort over growth? Am I surrounding myself with people who elevate me, or people who keep me small because it's familiar? These questions aren't easy to answer. They challenge your ego, but the ego is not your friend in growth. It's the loud voice that tells you you're fine when you know deep down something needs to change. You have to look at your life like a mirror, not a filter. See it for what it is, not how you wish it looked. If you're procrastinating, admit it. If you're settling in a relationship, call it out. If you're not giving your best, own that. Because the moment you own your flaws, they stop owning you, and only then can you begin to rise. But here's the beautiful part: honesty doesn't just highlight your weaknesses, it reveals your strength too. When you're honest, you see how far you've come. You realize the battles you've fought silently. You recognize the patterns you've broken, the pain you've survived, and the progress you've made, even if no one else noticed. That self-awareness becomes your superpower, and don't confuse being honest with being harsh. This isn't about tearing yourself down. It's about holding yourself accountable with love and grace. You can say, I need to do better, without saying, I'm not good enough. You can say, I've made mistakes, without saying, I'm a failure. Honesty is not an act of self-criticism. It's an act of self-respect. It's saying, I know I can do more, so I will. When you start practicing this kind of self-truth, everything changes. You stop needing validation from others because you trust your own voice. You stop seeking perfection because you value progress. You stop fearing change because you know it's where your power lies. And most importantly, you stop pretending. And in a world full of filters, the ability to be real is your greatest strength. It takes courage to look in the mirror and not flinch, to say, this is where I am. This is what I need to fix. This is what I need to face. That's not weakness. That's power. That's how leaders rise. That's how queens grow. You don't evolve by avoiding the truth. You evolve by embracing it, owning it, and using it as your fuel. So today, ask yourself, what truth am I avoiding? What story am I telling myself that's keeping me small? What version of me am I protecting that no longer serves who I'm becoming? And when you answer those questions honestly, don't run from the answers. Lean into them. That's where your transformation begins. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have it all together. You just need to be real. Because when you're real with yourself, you stop living in fear and start living in alignment with your purpose, your power, and your potential. And that version of you, the honest, evolving, self-aware version, is unstoppable. Keep showing up. Keep telling yourself the truth, because the woman who is honest with herself cannot be manipulated, cannot be controlled, and cannot be broken. She's building herself from the inside out, and nothing is more powerful than that. Learn something new every day, It sounds simple, almost like a quote you scroll past on social media, but when you actually start living by it, that's when everything begins to shift. Every single day is a blank canvas, and what you learn becomes the brushstroke that brings color, depth, and dimension to your journey. Life isn't just about existing, it's about expanding your mind, your skill set, your perspective, your capacity. And that kind of expansion doesn't come from routine, it comes from curiosity. Curiosity is your superpower. It's what separates people who stay stuck from those who evolve. When you allow yourself to be a student of life, always observing, absorbing, asking questions, you remain teachable. And being teachable isn't a weakness, it's a quiet kind of strength. It says, I may not know everything, but I'm willing to learn anything. That's how you grow. That's how you stay ahead, not just in your career, but in your mindset, your relationships, and your sense of self. When I stepped into the entertainment industry, I didn't have it all figured out. I didn't know the camera angles, the lighting, the politics of fame. I had to learn. And then, when I transitioned into global projects, I had to learn all over again. The accent, the culture, the system. I had to unlearn what I knew and relearn it in a new language, both literally and figuratively. But I never saw that as a burden. I saw it as an opportunity to grow bigger than the box I was placed in. That's the thing about learning. It makes you limitless. You don't have to enroll in a course or get another degree to learn every day. It's in the small things. Watch a documentary, read a chapter, ask someone about their story. Try a new recipe, practice a skill you've avoided because you feared failing. Every time you step into something unfamiliar, you stretch yourself, and that stretch, however uncomfortable, is where the transformation lives. Comfort zones are cozy, but nothing ever grows there. Learning also keeps you humble, because when you embrace the idea that there's always more to know, you remove the pressure to be perfect. You give yourself permission to explore without expectation. That humility doesn't diminish your confidence, it deepens it. It's a quiet assurance that says, I may not be there yet, but I'm not afraid to begin. And beginning is where the magic happens. There's a reason children grow so fast, it's because they're constantly learning. Everything is new. Their minds are wide open, not restricted by fear or ego. Somewhere along the way, adulthood teaches us to play it safe, to only do what we're good at, to protect our pride. But if you can return to that childlike hunger for learning, you'll unlock a version of yourself that's far more powerful than the one who's just trying to look successful. You'll become someone who is successful from the inside out. And here's something else to remember. Learning is not just about facts or information. It's also about emotional intelligence. Learn your patterns, learn what triggers you, learn what makes you feel powerful. Learn how to love better, listen better, communicate better. The most dangerous person in the room is not the one with the loudest voice, it's the one who knows themselves deeply. And that kind of self-knowledge only comes from a commitment to learn, reflect, and evolve. There will be days when it feels pointless, days when you wonder if all this learning is leading anywhere, but I promise you it is. What you learn today might not make sense right away, but one day it will be the very skill, mindset, or insight that opens a door you never expected. I've experienced that over and over in my own life. The smallest lessons often lead to the biggest shifts. Surround yourself with people who inspire learning, people who challenge your thinking, who introduce you to new worlds, who speak in ideas, not gossip. Build a circle that values elevation over stagnation, and if you don't have that yet, become that person for yourself. Be the kind of woman who learns not to impress others, but to empower herself. It doesn't matter how old you are, how accomplished you are, or how much you've already done. There is always more to learn. And the moment you think you've learned it all is the moment you stop growing. So stay curious, stay open, stay willing, because learning isn't something you do for a season. It's something you do for a lifetime, and trust me, when you make learning a daily habit, you don't just get smarter. You get sharper, you become more adaptable, more confident, more grounded. You stop reacting and start responding. You stop surviving and start evolving. That's the real glow up, not the one that shows on the outside, but the one that happens within. So learn something new every day. Not because you have to, but because you get to. Because life is too short to stay the same version of yourself. And the woman who never stops learning is the woman who never stops rising. Silence the noise. In a world that's constantly buzzing up, opinions, expectations, comparisons, criticism, it takes strength, deep strength, to simply mute it all and listen to yourself. Not the version of you shaped by others' ideas, not the watered-down version trying to please everyone, but the real asterisk you, the one underneath the layers of noise, that voice, that's your truth, that's your power. But you can't hear her if you're too busy listening to everything else. The noise is everywhere. It's in the comments section, the unsolicited advice, the endless scrolling, the pressure to measure up, the fear of falling behind. It's the voice that says you're not enough, or you're too much, or you should be more like her. It's in the expectations people place on you, and worse, the ones you start placing on yourself. And if you don't learn how to silence it, you'll drown in it. You'll spend your life reacting instead of living, performing instead of becoming. There came a point in my life where I realized that not all voices deserved space in my head. Not every opinion needed a seat at my table. You see, when you chase approval, you give your power away. You hand over the pen and let other people write your story. And darling, that's not the kind of life you were born to live. You were not meant to be an echo. You were born to be a voice, a loud, unapologetic, fearless voice. But to find that voice, you need silence. Not silence as in absence of sound, but silence as in presence of self. You have to be intentional about it, because the noise won't stop on its own. It's relentless. It shows up in the form of comparison, especially in this digital age where everyone's highlight reel is at your fingertips. And without even realizing it, you start measuring your worth against someone else's curated perfection. But let me tell you something real. Their timeline is not yours. Their journey is not your competition. Their shine doesn't dim your light. When you silence the noise, you stop looking side to side and start looking inward. That's where direction comes from. The truth is, not everyone will understand your path. Not everyone will clap for you, and that's okay. Your growth is not meant to be understood by people who have not yet dared to grow themselves. So stop shrinking to fit into spaces you've already outgrown. Stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Silence the noise that tells you to be smaller, quieter, more palatable. You were not made to blend in. You were made to rise. Learning to silence the noise means you start filtering what deserves your energy. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every comment needs a clap back. Sometimes your peace is louder than any response you could give. Protect that peace like your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Your mental clarity, your emotional stability, your ability to create, to dream, to thrive, they all depend on the space you give yourself to just be and in that silence something beautiful happens. You start to hear your intuition again, that quiet inner voice that always knew what you needed. She was never gone. You just couldn't hear her over the chaos. But when you tune out the world, even for a moment, she speaks. She guides, she reminds you of who you are, and she's fierce, she's focused, she's not here to play small. Sometimes silencing the noise means walking away. From toxic relationships, from draining environments, from conversations that don't feed your spirit. It means unfollowing, muting, disconnecting, not out of arrogance but out of self-respect. Protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. Not everyone deserves access to your mind, your heart, your dreams. And yes, sometimes the noise is internal. It's the self, doubt, the inner critic, the fear that creeps in when no one else is around. That voice that whispers, "What if I fail?" Or "Who do you think you are?" You need to silence that too. Not by ignoring it, but by confronting it with truth. Remind yourself of everything you've already survived, everything you've already built, everything you are. You don't need the world's permission to live boldly. You don't need their validation to trust yourself. What you need is quiet, space, stillness, not forever, but enough to remember your rhythm, enough to hear your own heartbeat over the chaos, enough to decide what matters to you. Because when the noise fades, clarity comes. You stop asking for directions and start creating your own map. You stop doubting yourself and start daring yourself. You stop being distracted and start becoming unstoppable. That's the power of silence. It's not empty. It's full of wisdom, healing, and growth. So take a breath, mute the world, get still, listen inward, and rise from that silence stronger, clearer, and more fearless than ever before. Because the woman who learns to silence the noise, she doesn't just survive, she leads, she builds, she reigns. Take one bold step every day, just one. It doesn't have to be dramatic, loud, or headline worthy. It doesn't have to be perfect or planned out, but it does have to be intentional, because every time you take a bold step, no matter how small, you remind yourself that you are capable, powerful, and in control of your journey. Boldness isn't about being fearless. It's about feeling the fear and choosing to move anyway. That choice made daily becomes a habit. That habit becomes a mindset, and that mindset changes everything. Most people wait for the perfect moment, the right time, more confidence, more clarity. But here's the truth. Boldness doesn't wait. Boldness builds. It grows in the doing. Confidence isn't something you magically wake up with one morning. It's something you earn by pushing yourself into the unknown, by stepping outside your comfort zone, by doing the thing you're scared to do again and again. Every bold step you take plants the seeds of belief, and belief is what transforms a vision into reality. I've learned that playing small doesn't serve anyone, not yourself, not the people who look up to you, and not the dreams you're trying to bring to life. Playing it safe might keep you comfortable, but it also keeps you stagnant. If you want to grow, you have to stretch, and stretching hurts. But that discomfort, that's where expansion lives. That's where courage is born. Sometimes a bold step is speaking up in a room where you've been silent. Sometimes it's setting a boundary with someone you've always tried to please. Sometimes it's applying for the job you don't feel ready for, or ending the relationship that's holding you back, or finally starting the project you've put off for years. Boldness looks different for everyone, but the common thread is this: it pushes you forward. It pushes you closer to who you're meant to be. And let's be honest, bold steps are rarely convenient. They'll challenge your schedule, your fears, and your excuses, but they'll also challenge your limits. That's the beauty of it. Bold steps require you to act on faith, not just in the world, but in yourself. When I transitioned from Bollywood to Hollywood, it wasn't because I knew exactly how things would unfold. It was because I took a bold step. I said yes to the unknown, knowing that I might fail, but trusting that even in failure I would learn something powerful about who I am. That's the thing about boldness. It doesn't always guarantee success, but it always guarantees growth. Every time you take a risk, you either win or you learn. Either way, you rise, because boldness isn't measured by the outcome, it's measured by the courage it takes to act. And courage is what sets leaders apart from followers. It's what sets doers apart from dreamers. Boldness isn't about ego. It's not about proving anything to anyone. It's about honoring the fire inside you, the voice that says, I can do more, I can be more. That voice is your truth. That voice is your power. And every time you ignore it, you dim your own light. But every time you listen to it, even just a little, you turn the volume up on your potential. Taking one bold step every day doesn't mean you have to overhaul your life overnight. It means making a daily decision to try, to push, to reach, to stretch. It could be as simple as saying no when you usually say yes, posting your work online, making that phone call, saying what you really feel, asking for help, starting something before you feel ready, because the truth is, you may never feel ready, and that's okay. Boldness isn't about being ready. It's about being willing. The most powerful people in the world aren't fearless, they're action takers. They've just trained themselves to move in spite of fear, and you can do the same. Train yourself to lean into discomfort. Train yourself to choose courage over convenience. Train yourself to take action even when your hands are shaking. That's how queens are built, not in perfect circumstances, but in imperfect moments when they chose boldness over hesitation. Let me tell you, this one bold step can change your life, one conversation. One decision, one email, one introduction, one idea. You never know which step will be the one that opens the next door, but you'll never find out if you don't take it. So don't wait, don't delay your own evolution. You're not here to survive, you're here to rise, to lead, to break patterns and rewrite stories. Every bold step you take tells the world, and more importantly, tells that you are not afraid to become everything you were meant to be. That you are committed to your growth, that you are willing to bet on yourself, that you are a woman who chooses movement over stagnation, power over fear, action over anxiety. So today, take one bold step. And then take another tomorrow. Keep walking, keep building, keep rising, because boldness, done daily, becomes a lifestyle, and the woman who lives boldly, she becomes unstoppable. Celebrate your small wins, not just the big milestones that everyone claps for, but the quiet victories no one else sees, the ones that happen in silence, in struggle, in solitude. Those moments matter just as much, if not more, because they represent the parts of your journey where you showed up even when you didn't have to, where you kept going even when quitting felt easier, where you made progress that wasn't loud or glamorous, but deeply personal and profoundly powerful. We live in a world obsessed with the grand reveal, the award, the promotion, the transformation photo, the shiny trophy moment. But what about the days you got out of bed when your heart was heavy? What about the moments you stood up for yourself for the first time? The times you said no, set a boundary, chose healing, asked for help, or just survived the day? Those are wins too, and if you're not taking time to recognize them, you're missing out on the very fuel that keeps your journey alive. You see, growth isn't always visible. Sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's happening underneath the surface where no one else can see, but you feel it. You feel it in your responses, in your mindset, in the way you no longer tolerate what you used to accept. That shift. That's a win. That's proof you're evolving, and that evolution deserves to be honored. When you only celebrate the big wins, you teach yourself that small steps don't matter, but they do. In fact, every big breakthrough is built on 100 tiny steps taken in the dark. That business you launched, it started with an idea. That healed relationship, it started with one vulnerable conversation. That personal transformation, it began with one difficult decision. Don't minimize the steps just because they don't make headlines. The small wins asterisk are asterisk the story. Celebrating your small wins is not about being self-indulgent, it's about being self-aware. It's about recognizing your own effort even when the world doesn't. Because if you keep waiting for external validation, you'll be stuck in a cycle of seeking approval instead of building self-belief. But when you validate yourself, when you clap for your own growth, you reclaim your power. You become your own cheerleader, and that's a kind of strength that can't be shaken. It's easy to get caught up in what's next, the next goal, the next level, the next challenge. But if you never pause to reflect on how far you've come, you start to feel like you're always behind. You're not behind, you're just moving, and movement, no matter how small, is progress. So take a moment, breathe, look back. Acknowledge the woman who kept going when it was hard, the woman who kept loving, kept believing, kept trying. She deserves to be celebrated. Some days your win might be massive. Other days it might be something as simple as drinking water, sending the email, writing one paragraph, saying something kind to yourself in the mirror. That's still a win, because consistency is built in those little choices, and consistency is what builds results. This mindset shift of recognizing and celebrating small wins changes the way you approach life. It keeps you present, it keeps you grateful, it keeps you focused on your effort, not just your outcome. It reminds you that you're not just living for someday, you're living for asterisk now asterisk, and now is worthy of celebration. When you celebrate your small wins, you create momentum, you build confidence, you generate energy that fuels the next step and the next. Think about it. Don't you feel more motivated when you acknowledge progress? When you realize, I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm also not where I started, that realization is powerful. That's the mindset that keeps you growing. You deserve to be proud of yourself, not just when the world claps, but when you quietly rise. When you quietly heal, when you quietly shift, that pride, that self-recognition is what sustains real growth, and the more you practice it, the stronger your inner foundation becomes. So don't wait for the finish line to feel worthy. Celebrate every step of the journey. Light a candle for your courage. Journal about your resilience. Share your little wins with the people who love you. Or keep them to yourself and smile in the mirror knowing you did something today that future you will thank you for. The truth is, your life is not made of a few big moments. It's made of thousands of little ones. Thousands of small wins that add up to something extraordinary, and the woman who celebrates her small wins. She doesn't burn out, she doesn't give up, she keeps rising because she knows her effort is enough. Her growth is real, and her journey in all its quiet glory is something to be proud of. So go ahead. Celebrate the fact that you showed up today. That you tried, that you gave your best even if it wasn't perfect. That's more than enough, and it always has been. Be unapologetically you. It sounds like a bold command, maybe even a little rebellious. But in reality, it's a quiet, powerful revolution. A personal vow to stop asking for permission to exist as your full, authentic self. In a world that's constantly trying to mold you, define you, label you, and box you in, being unapologetically yourself is the bravest thing you can do. It's not about arrogance, it's about alignment. It's about standing firmly in your truth and refusing to dim your light to make others more comfortable. From the moment we're born, society begins telling us who to be. Smile more, speak less, be agreeable, don't be too loud, don't be too soft, be strong, but not intimidating, be beautiful, but not too bold, and somewhere along the way we start shrinking, we start editing ourselves. We start hiding the parts that are messy, complicated, different, or simply misunderstood. But the truth is, those very parts are what make you powerful, what makes you magnetic, what makes you real. Being unapologetically you doesn't mean you won't be judged. You will be. It doesn't mean you'll always be liked. You won't be, but it means you'll be free, free from pretending, free from performing, free from living someone else's version of your life, and that kind of freedom, it's priceless. When you stop apologizing for who you are, you make space for the woman you were always meant to be. For a long time I struggled with this myself. I was told I was too ambitious, too outspoken, too unconventional, and I believed for a while that I had to tone it down, smile more politely, speak more carefully, be a little more palatable, but every time I tried to fit into a version of myself that wasn't real, something in me broke. And eventually, I decided to stop breaking for other people's comfort. I chose to take up space, to be bold, to own every part of my story, the glamorous parts and the gritty ones. That choice changed everything. When you start living unapologetically, you stop seeking approval and start trusting your intuition. You stop needing permission and start leading with conviction. You begin making choices not based on fear or expectation, but on what feels aligned with your spirit. And suddenly your life starts to feel like yours again. That's what authenticity does. It reconnects you to your power. Being unapologetically you also means honoring your emotions without guilt. You're allowed to be strong and vulnerable, fierce and soft, driven and messy. Human beings are complex, and women are especially taught to flatten their personalities to make others comfortable. But you are not here to be simple. You are here to be true. Let them see all of you, the laughter, the rage, the passion, the fire, the gentleness. You don't owe anyone a version of yourself that feels watered down. You owe yourself the truth. And yes, people will have opinions. They always do. Some will misunderstand you, some will mislabel you, some will walk away when you stop shrinking to fit into their world. Let them. The right people will rise to meet you where you stand, not expect you to crawl just to stay in their life. You're not here to be chosen. You're here to choose asterisk. Choose yourself every day, especially on the days when it feels hard. It's also important to understand that being unapologetically you is a journey, not a destination. You will evolve, your values may shift, your voice will grow stronger. Being real doesn't mean staying the same forever. It means staying connected to your essence even as you grow. It means letting go of the fear of being too much or not enough, and instead saying, I am exactly who I need to be today. And that's powerful. You don't need to prove yourself to anyone, not your family, not your peers, not society. You don't need to be more relatable, more polished, more perfect. You just need to be real. Realness is what connects, it's what inspires, it's what liberates. Every time you show up as your full self, you give other people permission to do the same, and that ripple effect. That's how we shift culture. That's how we raise daughters who don't apologize for their fire. That's how we build a world where authenticity isn't punished but celebrated. So stop apologizing for your dreams. Stop apologizing for your body. Stop apologizing for your boundaries, your standards, your voice. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to change your mind, to grow, to protect your peace. You don't owe the world a quiet version of yourself. You owe it your truth. The world doesn't need another perfect woman. It needs a real one. A woman who knows her worth, speaks her mind, trusts her gut, and walks through life knowing that she is enough, just as she is. That kind of woman is unstoppable. That kind of woman sets herself free. So be unapologetically you, loudly, bravely, fully, because the real you, she's more than enough, she's everything.